Infinix may be known for many things, but gaming phones aren't one of them, until now, with the Infinix GT10 Pro. These sorts of phones typically bring several extra features tailored to the gaming crowd, so does the GT10 Pro deliver? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our full review. The Infinix GT10 Pro is basically identical to another Infinix phone, the Note 30 VIP. But while that other one's highlight feature was super fast charging, this one here is all about gaming. It's a bit different from other gaming phones we've seen. Rather than a flagship, it's more of a value-based phone, aiming to deliver good performance and a gaming aesthetic. Some of its more notable features include a Dimensity 8050 chipset, a 120Hz OLED display, and a 108MP main camera. But besides that, it's the design of the phone that catches the eye. Infinix calls it Cyber Mecha, and is packed with machine-like decals, and in our case, orange accents. Both the back and the flat frame are made from glossy plastic, yet the phone feels solid, with decent grip. As you often see on gaming-style phones, there are LEDs on the backside. They're next to the camera. They light up during gaming, and also act as indicators for incoming notifications and calls, and charging. The display of the GT10 Pro is a 6.67-inch OLED with a 1080p resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate. It provides great contrast, and it's also a bit more responsive than you typically see, with a 360Hz touch sampling rate, though that is less than the more flagship-grade gaming phones. The panel has support for 10-bit color as well, though there's no support for HDR video, and color accuracy isn't one of the screen's strong suits. Even after you fiddle with the color options, you can never get perfect tones. The high refresh rate of the GT10 Pro is adaptive. You can get 120Hz to smooth out your swiping and scrolling, and this can dial down to 60Hz when the screen is idling to save some energy. And when it comes to brightness, we measured around 500 nits maximum with the manual slider, and this can boost to 700 nits when in auto mode. It's okay, but there are competitors out there which are brighter. The GT10 Pro has a traditional headphone jack and a pair of stereo speakers. The speakers have very good loudness, and the audio quality is decent, but at max volume the highs start to ring. We've linked an audio sample which you can listen to. The fingerprint reader sits under the display. It's responsive, though we're not fans of the low placement near the bottom of the phone. You can get the Infinix GT10 Pro with 256 gigs of storage, and that is expandable via microSD card. The interface here is Infinix's XOS 13, on top of Android 13. It comes with plenty of pre-installed apps, and the looks of the UI are customized compared to what you get with stock Android. In XOS, the notification shade is separated into two, just like in Xiaomi's MIUI. Swiping down from the top left corner brings up notifications, while the top right swipe reveals quick toggles and other controls. There's an alphabetized app drawer with a search bar and recent apps at the top. There is no way to disable the app drawer if you'd like to keep it all on the home screen though. The Smart Panel sidebar holds shortcuts and is quite customizable. And Infinix promises one major Android update and 2 years of security patches. That's actually below the industry standard these days. There are a few extra features here related to gaming, which makes sense. Gaming phones like to keep their games organized into a convenient space, and the GT10 Pro is no different with this X Arena hub. Within the settings, you get various options, like turning off notifications, various optimizations, and graphics enhancement. Within games you've added to the X Arena, you also get an in-game toolbar with convenient shortcuts, including performance modes and floating app support. You even have a key mapping option for the phone's volume up and down keys. You can have these translate to on-screen inputs, which is a way to make the GT10 Pro more of a gaming phone, even though it doesn't have shoulder trigger keys. Now let's talk about the phone's chipset. It's a MediaTek Dimensity 8050, which is technically a brand new chip, but is almost identical to both the Dimensity 1300 and Dimensity 1200 we saw in past years. Judging by the benchmarks, the Dimensity 8050 is well optimized, and it performs on par with the Dimensity 1300, as we expected. That's enough to give the GT10 Pro a significant edge over its competitors in terms of both CPU and GPU prowess. Still, the performance is not quite like you'd find on other gaming phones, which bring the most cutting-edge flagship hardware. The GT10 Pro boasts vapor chamber cooling, and during our prolonged stress test, it did throttle down its performance to around 70%, but it remained stable after that. Still, we expected better thermal management, given that this chipset isn't exceptionally powerful. Arguably the greatest issue with the gaming credentials of the GT10 Pro was that we weren't able to run any games at 120Hz, even the ones that we know can go beyond 60 FPS. Even if you force 120Hz from the display settings, you're still limited to 60. When it comes to battery life, the GT10 Pro does a good job. With this 5000 mAh battery, it was able to earn an endurance rating of 112 hours. The phone comes with a 45-watt charger and is fast to charge for the price range, going from 0 to 73% in half an hour. The GT10 Pro is equipped with 3 cameras on its back, but only the 108 megapixel main one is really useful. The other two are a 2 megapixel macro cam and a depth sensor. The main cam saves 12 megapixel photos by default, and it does well during the day. There's a good amount of detail and a wide dynamic range, and while colors are slightly muted, they aren't too bad. The portrait mode does okay with the face rendition and captures enough details, but its background separation is somewhat lacking. That's despite the dedicated depth sensor. In low light conditions, the GT10 Pro produces usable photos. Noise is kept under control thanks to some heavy noise suppression, which unfortunately smears some fine details. Highlights do often end up clipped, but the shadows aren't too dark. Turning on the Super Night mode brightens up the whole scene and balances out the shadows and highlights a bit better, but actually reduces fine detail further. 4K videos from the main cam are great. They're detailed, with mature processing and pleasing colors. However, recording in 4K comes without stabilization. Switching on the Ultra Steady mode limits the resolution to 1080p and narrows the field of view, but offers nicely smooth footage. Here's what close-ups look like from the 2 megapixel macro cam. Unimpressive, as you'd expect. And finally, selfies from the 32 megapixel front-facing cam have plenty of detail and wide dynamic range. The colors could be a bit livelier though. So that's the Infinix GT10 Pro. It's marketed as a gaming phone, and you do get the aesthetic and some software features tailored to gaming. But you're missing many features which gamers have come to expect from these devices, like great sustained performance, dedicated trigger buttons, or even high frame rate support for games. But with that aside, this is a very competitive mid-ranger with the best performance around for the price, and a nice screen, fast charging, and dependable camera. So if it comes down to value for money, and you don't mind the looks, the GT10 Pro is worth recommending. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for alternatives to the GT10 Pro, one option could be Xiaomi's Poco X5 Pro. Or you could check out Samsung's Galaxy A34. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.